Have you ever paused and wondered how one small, unexpected moment could completely reroute your life? Missing a train, failing an interview, or losing something you thought was forever. At first, these moments feel random or even like a setback. But what if I told you they might actually be the beginning of something greater? That's the idea of a butterfly effect. This idea comes from the science of complex systems. In the 1960s, meteorologist Edward Lorenz discovered that small differences in initial conditions, like a butterfly's wing flap, could alter weather patterns weeks later. In other words, small causes can have big effects, just like in our lives, relationships, and the world around us. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm just one person. What difference can I possibly make? We live in a world where social media and cable news constantly show us problems that feel too big. Climate change, war, injustice. And it's easy to believe the individual doesn't matter. Now, but researchers Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler discovered that small things like habits, emotions, and kindness spread through social networks up to 3 degrees of separation. This means your choices can not only affect your friends, but their friends and even their friends' friends. And here's an example. Greta Thunberg was just a teenage girl protesting on climate change. And that led to millions of people to follow her and protest. And that tiny ripple, it goes in both directions, through action and through silence. Like the butterfly, your absence will be felt in ways you can't imagine. Even doing nothing, it creates ripple effects. Now, here's a real example. Before her success, J.K. Rowling was just an unemployed single mother living on public assistance. Then, the idea of a young wizard popped into her mind. She didn't have a book deal, or fame, or even money. That tiny spark became Harry Potter, a global story that inspired millions. The series has sold over 600 million copies and has been adapted into 8 successful movies. Have you read the 3rd edition? I really liked it. Now, let me share one of my sparks. Back in 3rd grade, I started journaling. At first, I wrote small things like math test was hard. I felt nervous. But slowly, I started asking questions. Why was it hard? Did I study enough? Was I pretending I understand fractions? That habit helped me slow down and understand myself better. Later on, I picked up the guitar. I didn't have a goal. I just liked how it sounded. At first, I couldn't even hold a single chord properly, but I kept going. A few minutes a day turned into a few songs, and eventually, it became a way to focus and express things I couldn't always put into words. The butterfly effect doesn't happen in one day, but over time, even small, habits and mistakes can build into a storm you can't escape. This is explained by what economist Alfred Econ called the tyranny of small decisions. When small, individually reasonable choices accumulate over time and lead to unintended, often harmful outcomes. For example, a 30-year longitudinal study by the Finnish Institute for Health and Warfare found that repeated unhealthy behaviors like smoking, inactivity, poor diet drastically increased the risks of chronic diseases and mental health disorders later in life. It's like raindrops falling. They're quiet, unnoticed, until they flood the whole landscape. By the time the storm hits, it's too late, and it's hard to trace back to one moment because it was many moments combined. Before Harry Potter became a global story, it was just a thought J.K. Rowling had on a train. Before I ever stood here speaking, I was just a kid writing about my feelings in a journal and struggling to play a single chord on a guitar. None of these seemed important at that time. But looking back, these moments carried more weight than we realized. So, what choice will you make today that your future self will thank you for? Thank you.